Most men don't lose women. They lose understanding. They lose clarity. They lose themselves, trying to figure out someone else. And by the time they realize what went wrong, the connection is already slipping through their hands. Not because they didn't care, but because they cared, without direction. Welcome to Silent Power Psychology, where we don't teach you how to chase attention. We teach you how to understand it. Because the truth is uncomfortable. Most men are not rejected because they are not good enough. They are rejected because they don't understand the psychology of attraction, respect, and emotional dynamics. They try harder when they should step back. They explain more when they should observe. They give more when they are already being valued less. And slowly, without realizing it, they train people to take them for granted. This is not about blaming women. This is about understanding patterns. Because once you understand the pattern, you stop repeating the mistake. And once you stop repeating the mistake, your entire reality begins to shift. These are not tricks. These are not manipulation tactics. These are psychological truths that quietly decide whether you are respected or replaced. Secret number 1. She does not value what is always available. This is where most men lose everything before anything even begins. They believe that being consistent means being constantly present, always replying, always showing up, always prioritizing her. But what they don't understand is simple. People don't value what they feel they cannot lose. When your presence becomes predictable, it becomes invisible. When your attention becomes unlimited, it becomes normal. And what feels normal rarely feels special. This doesn't mean you should become cold. It doesn't mean you should play games. It means you must understand this. Your time, your energy, your attention are not supposed to be free. Because the moment they feel free, they lose their weight. Attraction does not grow in comfort alone. It grows in contrast. Presence and absence, interest and space, certainty and mystery. Without that contrast, there is no emotional movement. And without emotional movement, there is no attraction. So when you make yourself constantly available, you remove the very thing that creates desire. Not intentionally, but psychologically. And the moment your presence becomes expected, your value begins to drop. A man who is always there becomes background noise. He is safe. He is predictable. He is comfortable. But he is not felt. And attraction is built on feeling, not logic, not effort, not intention. Feeling. This is why some men can do everything right on paper and still lose interest. Because they never created emotional movement. They never allowed space. They never gave her a reason to feel their absence. And without absence, presence loses meaning. Secret number 2. She watches how you react, not what you say. Most men believe attraction is built through words. They think the right sentences will fix everything. So they talk more. They explain more. They try harder to say the perfect thing. But what she is actually observing is not your words. It is your reactions. How you behave when things are not going your way. How you respond when she becomes distant. How you carry yourself when you feel uncertain. Because words can be controlled. but reactions reveal truth. If you panic when she pulls away, she feels it. If you over-explain when things get unclear, she feels it. If you chase when she creates space, she feels it. And all of these reactions tell her something important, that your emotional state depends on her behavior. And the moment she feels that, the dynamic changes. Because confidence is not what you say. Confidence is what you don't feel the need to prove. And the moment you start trying to prove your worth, you communicate the opposite. That you are unsure of it yourself. So instead of listening to everything you say, she watches how you move. Because behavior is harder to fake than words. And behavior always comes from belief. If you don't believe in your value, your actions will expose it, even if your words try to hide it. Read this script in the same deep, calm, masculine documentary-style voice. Serious, mysterious, confident, and emotionally controlled. Keep the pace slow to medium. Add natural pauses after powerful lines. Avoid sounding excited, salesy, robotic, or motivational. Because once someone starts watching your behavior instead of your words, everything changes. They stop listening to what you promise. They start noticing what you tolerate. They stop caring about what you say you deserve. They start observing what you accept. And slowly, without saying anything, they adjust how they treat you. Not out of intention, but out of perception. Because people don't treat you based on what you say you are. They treat you based on what you allow. And this is where most men lose respect without realizing it. They say they want honesty but tolerate lies. They say they want consistency but accept excuses. They say they want respect but ignore small acts of disrespect. And those small moments become patterns. Because once something is tolerated once, it becomes easier to repeat. And the more it repeats, the more it becomes normal. Until one day, you wake up, and the entire dynamic has changed. She speaks differently. She behaves differently. She values you less. And you're left thinking, when did this happen? But the answer is simple. It didn't happen suddenly. It happened gradually. Through every moment where you stayed silent when you should have been clear. Secret number 3. Attraction grows in uncertainty, not certainty. This is where most men struggle. Because they want clarity. They want reassurance. They want to know exactly where they stand. So they push for answers. They ask more questions. They try to define everything too early. But attraction doesn't grow in complete understanding. It grows in emotional tension. The kind of tension that keeps someone thinking about you, even when you're not there. When everything is fully clear, the mind relaxes. There is nothing left to figure out, nothing left to explore, nothing left to feel. But when something is slightly uncertain, the mind stays engaged. It keeps going back, replaying conversations, analyzing behavior, trying to understand what it cannot fully explain. And that is where emotional investment begins. This is not about confusing someone. This is about not over-explaining yourself. Because the more you try to make everything clear, the less space you leave for imagination. And imagination is powerful. It creates stories. It creates curiosity. It creates emotional attachment. But when you explain everything, there is nothing left to imagine, and without imagination there is no depth. So instead of trying to be fully understood, focus on being fully present. Because presence creates feeling, and feeling creates attraction. Secret number 4. Boundaries are tested before they are respected. Every relationship has moments of tension, moments where lines are crossed, moments where behavior shifts, moments where something feels off. And in those moments, something important is happening. You are being observed, not judged, not analyzed, observed. She is watching how you respond. Do you ignore it? Do you tolerate it? Do you react emotionally? Or do you stay calm and stand firm? Because your response defines your standard, and your standard defines your value. If you allow small disrespect, it grows. If you avoid confrontation, your boundaries disappear. If you react emotionally, you lose control. But if you stay calm and respond with clarity, something changes. Not just in her behavior, but in how she sees you. Because a man who can remain composed, even when things are uncomfortable, becomes difficult to shake. And stability is rare. A boundary is not a sentence. It is not a message. It is not something you say once. A boundary is a decision. A decision to act differently when something is crossed. A decision to remove yourself from what disrespects you. Without drama. Without anger. Without needing to explain everything. Because the strongest message is not what you say. It is what you do. Read this script in the same deep, calm, masculine documentary-style voice. Serious, mysterious, confident, and emotionally controlled. Keep the pace slow to medium. Add natural pauses after powerful lines. Avoid sounding excited, salesy, robotic, or motivational. End with calm authority. Because at the end of the day, people don't change because you explained things better. They change when they feel something shift. And that shift usually comes from your actions, not your words. Secret number 5. Emotional control is more powerful than emotional expression. Most men believe that showing more emotion will create a deeper connection. So they explain how they feel. They express everything. They try to be open, honest, transparent. And while that sounds right on the surface, there's something deeper happening underneath. Attraction is not built on how much you feel. It is built on how you manage what you feel. Because uncontrolled emotion creates instability. And instability removes trust. Not because emotions are bad, but because lack of control signals uncertainty. A man who reacts to every situation emotionally becomes predictable, and predictability removes tension. But a man who feels deeply, yet remains grounded, creates something rare. Calm strength. He doesn't need to react immediately. He doesn't need to prove his feelings. He doesn't need to explain every thought. He observes. He processes. He responds only when necessary. And that kind of control creates presence, not loud, not aggressive, just steady. And people feel that, without needing it to be said. Secret number 6. Respect comes before love. This is where most men get it wrong. They try to be loved first. They try to be kind, supportive, available, understanding. But love without respect does not last. Because respect creates structure. It creates balance. It creates boundaries. Without respect, love becomes one-sided. You give more, you invest more, you try harder, and slowly, you start feeling less valued. Not because love disappeared, but because respect was never strong enough to support it. Respect is not built through effort alone. It is built through consistency, through standards, through knowing what you accept and what you walk away from. A man who respects himself does not beg to be respected. He does not argue for it. He does not chase it. He simply removes himself from situations where it does not exist. And that decision alone changes everything. Secret number 7. The real power is the ability to walk away. This is the hardest truth, because walking away feels like losing. It feels like giving up. It feels like letting go of something that mattered. So most men don't do it. They stay. Even when they feel disrespected. Even when they feel drained. Even when they know something is wrong. They stay because they are afraid. Afraid of losing the connection. Afraid of being alone. Afraid that if they leave, they won't find something better. But here's the truth. If you cannot walk away, you are not in control. Your decisions are being driven by fear, not by value. And when fear controls your actions, you lose your position. Not because someone took it from you, but because you gave it away. A man who can walk away is a man who cannot be controlled. Not because he doesn't care, but because he respects himself more than he fears loss. He understands something most men don't, that staying in the wrong situation costs more than losing the person. Because when you stay where you are not valued, you slowly lose yourself. And once you lose yourself, no relationship can fix that. So the real shift is not learning how to keep someone. It is learning how to never abandon yourself again. Because once you reach that point, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop overthinking. You stop reacting to every small change. You become steady, grounded, unshaken. And that kind of presence is rare. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists. And people feel it. That is silent power. Not control over others, control over yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your decisions. Because when you control those, you don't need to force respect. You don't need to chase attention. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. It becomes clear. Without words. Without effort. Without noise. And once you understand these patterns, you stop being the man who is trying to be chosen, and you become the man who chooses. If this changed the way you see things, then you're starting to understand what most men never do. Subscribe to Silent Power Psychology. Because the more you understand these patterns, the less you will ever need to chase anything again.